Trump pressed him on whether it would be honest loyalty. "You will have that," Mr. Comey told his associates. He responded. Well, the president tweeted this morning, "James Comey better hope that there are no tapes of our conversations before he starts leaking to the press." With that, let's bring in our panel. Matt Schlapp, contributor with The Hill, Amy Walter, national editor for the Cook Political Report, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Well, if the media and people who cover Washington were not in a lather already, this interview, these tweets today, it put them over the top.
Wow. It's been a heck of a week. Trying to think about what happened this week, because so much happened. And all I can think of when it comes to Comey is that as strange as the politics are around it, one of the reasons why James Comey got himself in trouble, where Democrats had lost confidence in him, the president had lost confidence, a lot of Republicans like me had lost confidence in him, is what we were reading about in the New York Times, which is he's going to try to win this news cycle. He's going to push back on the president aggressively. It's a two-person dinner, and Jim Comey was the only other person in that dinner, and he is now getting the story out about exactly what happened. It's how he plays the game, and that's why he became a political actor and not so much the revered prosecutor that you're supposed to be when you run the FBI.
I guess it was this exchange, Amy, at the White House briefing that really caught everybody's attention.
Did President Trump record his conversations with former FBI Director Comey?
I've talked to the president. The president has nothing further to add on that.
Why did he say that? Why did he tweet that? What should we interpret from that?
As I mentioned, the president has nothing further to add on that.
Are there recording devices in the Oval Office or in the residence?
As I said for the third time, there is nothing further to add on that.
Does he think it's appropriate to threaten someone like Mr. Comey not to speak?
I don't think that's not a threat. He's simply stated a fact. The tweet speaks for itself. I'm moving on.
Amy.
Yeah. Well, and the president himself telling in your first clip in that interview saying, I'm not going to get into that either. So there's that saying about when you're in a hole to stop digging. And it just seems to me that every day this story gets bigger or the lather gets deeper based on self-inflicted wounds. And had this story, it's not that it's going to end tomorrow, but why would you want to make it bigger and deeper by bringing up the issue of recordings? For Democrats who already want to make parallels between this and Watergate, to bring up the issue of tapes is only going to make that much more difficult. There were plenty of ways to handle this that I think there would have been some blowback for the president. Democrats would have been upset, but would not have created the firestorm. And again, it's all coming from within, not from without.
And they have stopped talking about it, Charles, but there are, as you would imagine, right after all that was said and tweeted today, calls from Capitol Hill for those tapes, if there are tapes. And there are multiple calls from committees that they would like to see them.
Well, now we have a new rabbit to chase down another rabbit hole. But this is, I think, as Amy says, self-inflicted. Who brought up the tapes? When you hear Spicer say, no, this isn't a threat, it's just, I mean, what is it? All of a sudden, you're raising something nobody had imagined and saying, you better watch out. That's, you know, that's unpresidential, which is kind of a nice way of saying that sounds more like a mafia boss than the president of a free republic. People say, well, what people like about Trump is that he's unconventional. Well, unconventional means stepped outside the bounds of the behavior that 44 individuals have tried to stay within, starting with George Washington, who tried to set an example of a certain rectitude and dignity. And to talk like, well, you better watch out, or you might get whacked by tapes, it was self-inflicted and unnecessary. I agree, there was total grounds for getting rid of Comey. There was sympathy on both sides of the aisle for the mistakes he made and perhaps his unfitness for the job. But that would have made it relatively easy to get rid of him in a way that would have not stirred up this firestorm. And then when it looks like it's starting to damp down, to start up with you better watch out or something might happen to you, I think is simply extending a story that is not going to help the president.
More than the process story, Matt, and looking at what was said on all of these fronts and the Russia investigation and the tie in the NBC interview to Russia in one of those answers about his decision to fire Comey, is the sense that it's a cycle. If this explodes and continues to explode, he can't get lawmakers together to pass things on Capitol Hill. If he can't get lawmakers to pass things on Capitol Hill, they're going to go home empty-handed and get beaten in 2018. And if they get beaten in 2018, the House and the Senate will be run by Democrats who will step up the investigations into Donald Trump. I mean, it's like a giant circle.
It is. It's amazing. But the thing is that I think that the earliest point in a presidency that we can remember, the other side of the aisle is at war. They don't even want to pretend that they want to work with each other. And that's to the president's detriment, because not everything he wants to pass is going to be on a reconciliation vehicle. We only need Republican votes. He's going to need Democratic votes on a lot of other things that he cares about, including long-term fixes to health care. And you're right, it's not only just the problem with Democrats being at war and acting like the elections every day of the calendar year. The secondary piece is when presidential approval ratings stay as low as they are, it makes your own team start to get worried. So there's two things he's got to do. He's got to make sure he's got to get through this investigation, which there's really no credible evidence of any wrongdoing. That's the crazy part of this. We should be able to move beyond it, because nobody can find a scintilla of evidence that the president did anything inappropriate with Russia in the campaign. You got to get beyond this this controversy, and we got to start focusing on the Trump agenda, which by and large on the big questions is very popular.
Yeah. I mean, for all the leaks, we have had a leak about a credible evidence of collusion. I mean, there have been a lot of leaks.
Well, that's the thing. At the end of the Lester Holt interview, the president says, you know what, I want to start talking about jobs and the economy and ISIS and building the wall, which is great. I think everybody would like him to do that. And then less than 24 hours later, he tweets out the tapes. And so this makes it that much harder. The other piece, of course, is that a lot of the agenda, though, Matt, isn't particularly popular. The health care piece is going to be a big hurdle for Republicans, not just getting it passed, but making sure that voters don't see it as toxic. And right now, it's not particularly popular. So getting members, you're right, not just to stick with you when you're unpopular, but to stick with legislation that right now isn't that popular, those are two tough things to ask your own team to do.
I want to play one more soundbite from this interview with Judge Jeanine, which actually airs this weekend. This is about press briefings.
When we have those press conferences, I actually said we shouldn't have them.
Would you seriously consider stopping these press sessions?
No, we do it in a different way.
How?
We do it through a piece of paper with a perfectly accurate, beautiful answer. What I'd love to do is stop them.
You don't mean that.
Well, just don't have them. Or unless I have them every 2 weeks and I do myself. We don't have them. You have a level of hostility that's incredible. And it's very unfair. Sarah Huckabee is a lovely young woman. You know Sean Spicer. He is a wonderful human being. He's a nice man.
Is he your press secretary today and tomorrow? Will he be tomorrow?
Sure. He is. He's doing a good job, but he gets beat up.
Will he be there tomorrow?
Yeah, well, he's been there from the beginning.
I mean, it was not a ringing endorsement, I guess, of Sean Spicer, but...
And I'm not that outraged by his idea. I mean, the Republic went along for a couple of hundred years before television and before it monopolized daytime television. Another interview, perhaps it was in this one, Trump said that the ratings for those briefings are through the roof. I thought he would ask for the network to actually contribute something to charity as a way to pay back what he's doing for them. But, you know, if people want to do it by writing or without cameras, that's fine. It's not the end of the Republic. I think his real problem for Huckabee and Spicer is not that they are falling on the job. It's that their job is impossible. They're sent out on the day of the firing to give one story, and it doesn't last 48 hours before the boss gives a total contradiction. What can they do? What can they say? It's not the fault of Spicer and Huckabee, that's for sure.
I tell you, if he had a press briefing every 2 weeks, I don't know.
That'd be fine.
Love it.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that was the thing he said there that rings the most true, which is that he wants to be the one doing it,
making
messaging.
sure that it messages.
Because he thinks he's the best, and in some ways, he is.
This is a Fox News alert. We are just getting word that the Department of Justice will start interviews tomorrow morning, 7:45 in the morning, for a permanent replacement for James Comey at the FBI. And these are the names that we have been given who will be interviewed. Alice Fisher, she is a lawyer here in Washington. She's the former Assistant Attorney General for the Criminal Division. We also have the current acting director, McCabe. You saw him testify on Capitol Hill. He is in the position right now. Then John Cornyn, senator from Texas. He is in the running now. He is the majority whip of the Senate. And Judge Michael Garcia. He's the associate judge in New York Court of Appeals and the former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. Those are the four that we've been told are interviewing for the position. Matt.
That's an impressive list, and I think a lot of this scandal going away were, once again, no evidence of any real collusion or wrongdoing by the Trump campaign. They should be able to move beyond this, and if he picks somebody to run the FBI who's unimpeachable, the list you went through is going to get rave reviews if that's the true pool. John Cornyn was on the Supreme Court in Texas. I don't think he has an enemy on the globe, a decent, thoughtful person. Mike Garcia, I believe, worked for President and was the kind of the head of all the U.S. attorneys for a period of time. It's a good list.
Any problems getting those through?
There's nobody right of that list that would raise, the sirens or the alarm bells. Somebody to say that person's so controversial, that's going to be really a tough haul for Republicans. You want someone, I think, that is going to be, as Matt points out, sort of unimpeachable, but also kind of boring, right? You're just going to get in, do the job, stay below the radar, not going to be doing, getting the kind of, as the president called, showboating that you saw from the previous FBI director. And
we should caveat this. This is the list we're given. The interviews that we know are happening tomorrow, according to multiple sources inside the administration. Could it go beyond this list? I guess. But this is the list we're being given.
But it's the right kind of list. It's the right spirit. I think the key here is to find somebody boring, unimpeachable. Look, what's been the refrain of the Democrats? They started this within minutes of the firing. We have to have a special prosecutor. Why would you want to have that? Because you are implying that the FBI is not going to conduct an honest investigation. You banish that thought. You refute the call by having somebody who's unimpeachable, because all that's left then for the Democratic argument is to say that the FBI agents themselves are corrupted, which even Democrats won't say. So I think you appoint somebody of integrity and you're done, and the story is behind us for now, unless the tapes show up.
Or until tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
There'll be a tweet tomorrow. We start all over again. There are a lot of rabbit holes out there in that plane.
Well, we have you covered because we'll be here Sunday, 8 p.m. for a special edition of Special Report. But next up with the panel, winners and losers of the week. All right, time for winners and losers with the panel. Matt, first to you, winner then loser.
Winner, the U.S. flower industry, which will sell something like $2.6 billion worth of arrangements this Mother's Day. I will tell you that my wife is more interested in me propping up the U.S. jewelry industry, but, to each their own. Loser, the swamp, again, and the long-suffering hockey fans of the swamp who are watching their caps go down again. Not good.
I know. Loser me for wearing that jersey right before the final game.
That's why they lost.
Congratulations to Pennsylvania, to the Penguins, Pittsburgh. You had the better team on the ice. All right, winner and.
You reminded me I got to go get some flowers. It's maybe too late. Yeah. My winner, remember there was an election in France that everybody was talking about, which was a really big deal. That wasn't that long ago. That was on Sunday. Emmanuel Macron. That was a very big success. Of course, we've moved on to other things. We can only pay attention now in politics for 14 seconds. The loser, right now the Republican health care bill members of Congress going home, listening to angry constituents. There are lots of ads up on TV about it. But the latest polling now, approval rating, this is the Quinnipiac poll, only at 21%. There have been about 2 or 3 other polls out showing it anywhere between that is the lowest, up to 33%. More important, more like 3 to 4 times as many people say they strongly dislike than strongly like. Democrats have been down this path in 2010. Republicans got to find a way to message this better. We've got a long way to go, but they have to find a way to get this bill and
But quickly,
talk about
just
it
to
better.
follow up, Paul Ryan says 2 to 3 months. He thinks his Senate can move something. You have other Republicans saying we're starting from scratch. It's going to take forever.
Yeah, we know the process. It takes a long time. I doubt we will get something voted on before the fall.
Winner then loser.
Winner is Moon Jae-in, another presidential candidate who won, slightly more obscure. Nobody's ever heard of him. You will hear of him. He won the presidency in South Korea. He is an opposition candidate. He is much more sympathetic to North Korea than the current administration. Already he picked a fight with Japan. Within a week of coming into office, he will pick fights with us. He's against the deployment of the missile defense system, which we are installing. Loser, I hate to say it again because it came up earlier, Sarah Huckabee Sanders and Mike Pence. They were left hanging way out there, twisting in the wind by their boss, who changed his rationale and had them unprotected.
All right, panel, we'll see what happens next week, and we'll see you Sunday. Thanks for inviting us.